Kansas City Sports Update Studios. Welcome to Kingdom Radio, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. Brought to you by Arrowhead Update. Join Chris and Richard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Player FM, CastBox, and all third-party applications. Check us out on Facebook platforms such as Kansas City Sports Update and Arrowhead Update. And if you cannot find us there, Google or search Kingdom Radio and Kansas City Chiefs, and you will find us. Welcome to the Kingdom. Kingdom.
How are we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to Kingdom Radio. I'm your host, Richard Smith. Along with me, my senior NFL analyst and co-host, Chris Chavez. Chris, how are you feeling right now?
I am super excited. The stars aligned, and we ended up getting into the playoffs in a way that, as I talked about the other night, I thought that we had a very low chance of getting into it with the second seed, and everything just came together, and it happened. Feels great.
Yes, and if you don't know, and I'm sure you do in Chiefs Kingdom, I mean, you really have to not be a fan of football to not know that, you know, obviously the Chiefs beat the Los Angeles Chargers 31-21, but an almost bigger story, obviously we had to take care of business, which the Chiefs did at Arrowhead Stadium, but we got a little help today. And I'll tell you what, that's one thing that I think in Chiefs Kingdom has eluded us over the years, is getting any help from anyone else in the NFL when it comes to the playoff run or contention or anything like that. We seem to fall on the short end of the stick. But today, the Miami Dolphins defeated the New England Patriots to knock them out of the second seed and drop them down, to the fourth seed. And Kansas City moves up to the second seed, gives us a first-round bye and a home game there in the playoffs. So what a turn of events. We felt like we were backing our way into the playoffs, into that third seed. And it almost seemed like the second seed was out of hand. But thank you, Ryan Fitzpatrick. We really appreciate that. Chris, what do you think about, before we hop into the Chiefs' victory over the Chargers, because that was a huge deal that had to happen for us to even, be in contention for the second place. But what were your thoughts as, you find out that New England had been knocked off by Miami?
For tomorrow, I am declaring tomorrow, I don't say national, but Kansas City Hug a Dolphin Day. If you meet a Dolphins fan out in the real world, give them a hug, give them a big, sincere thank you. If you see a picture of a dolphin, then kiss the dolphin, do something nice for it, because, oh my gosh, it was incredible.
Can we have Ryan Tannehill come bang the drum our first playoff game at Arrowhead? I mean, I personally, I'd be okay with that.
So would I. That definitely sounds like a well-deserved reward for him.
That's how I feel, because, look, he won't be watching the playoffs at home. He'll be at the most exciting venue in the NFL, probably watching one of the most exciting games in the playoffs, and, paying tribute to a team that's obviously, through the years, better than his team. So
he'll also be visiting he didn't play with him. Never mind. I was going to say two of his former teammates, but Moore and Henne weren't on the team when he was there. I take that back.
Fair enough. I will say this. New England took a hit here. This is the only time that New England's really backed their way into the playoffs and having a wild card game in over a decade. So, before we talk about this playoff picture, because there's a lot to talk about, let's talk about this win. Because the Chiefs put up 31 points, against a decent Los Angeles Chargers defense, convincingly. And Mahomes didn't have to have a huge day, thrown for 174 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. But the running game came alive, and I will say this, Damian Williams, I don't know where you came from, but keep doing what you're doing, because you look like a stud today. Chris, thoughts on the way the Chiefs handled business, putting up 31 points, holding the Chargers to 21, and also, what are your thoughts on Damian Williams today?
I definitely say that the Chiefs' offense played like a snowball that began rolling at the top of a hill. It started extremely slowly and needed some pushes here and there.
Right.
But once we got the jet on that kick return for a touchdown, the momentum swung and we never looked back.
We did not.
The defense, on the other hand, they were playing angry and inspired football right from the very first series when Phillip Rivers, and the NFL is going to take a look at this and he's probably going to get fined for it. Phillip Rivers punched Chris Jones while they were tangled up down on the ground.
I saw that.
On that third down play.
I saw that. But I'll tell you what, you can't suspend a player who doesn't play in the NFL. We'll see. Hold on. We'll see what.
You can fine him.
Very true. Very true. And we'll see how all of that plays out with Phillip Rivers here in the next few weeks, because there's some big decisions over there for him in L.A. And with the NFL, given the cheap shot. I mean, what a petty thing to do, you know? But that's Phillip Rivers' game. I mean, anyway, he could come out with the last word or cheap shot, you know he's going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was fun watching him crying right from the very beginning. The Crimea River mantra started from the very beginning. It was great to watch it happen.
Yeah, it was too. And then the cheap shot, CBS took it at Phillip Rivers leading into the commercials. I don't know if you saw this or not, Chris, but leading into the commercials, while Los Angeles was down in the game more towards the end, CBS leading into the commercial played Crimea River by Justin Timberlake, and there's no way that couldn't have been anything but a shot towards Phillip Rivers.
Whoever the AR guy is in the van has to be a Chiefs fan, because that's hilarious.
He needs a promotion.
Yeah.
Hey, I love it. So, all right. Damian Williams. I'll tell you what. If you saw the highlights in today's game, or you watched any of today's game, Damian Williams really, really showed signs of brilliance and true grit and the power runner that we've been looking for. I mean, this man broke off an 84-yard touchdown, which he should have been taken down to the ground, and showed the toughness that he'd been lacking all season long, and then returned later in the game and ran another 7 or 8 yard touchdown in, and showed some resilience on that play as well. So what's your take on Damian Williams' play today, and do you think that he has enough skill set to really be an asset to the Chiefs here throughout the playoffs?
Yes. Ever since he came back mid-season-ish from his injury, he's been playing angry. Extremely physical, which is something that we haven't really had a whole lot of with Shady carrying the ball.
Right.
And nothing against Darrell Williams, but he's more of a finesse back.
Right.
Damian and Darwin have definitely been more of the power backs, constantly falling forward when they're getting tackled. And Damian today, man, he was shoving guys out of his way, bouncing off tackles, and then busting out that speed again. It wasn't quite the 91-yarder, but 84 was just as pretty.
And I have to say, I feel like this was by far the most fun game to watch of the season for our running game. It was exciting. And even Darwin Thompson got in a little bit of the action, and Mahomes. I mean, we're talking 150 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns collectively.
Yeah, what kind of worried me a little bit in the beginning of the game was how many RPOs we were running.
Right, yes.
I definitely think that that's something that we should incorporate into our offense, but we also need to establish that as well as show that we can throw out of that.
Right.
So then it will keep the safeties, the linebackers honest, and keep them away from the line of scrimmage, so that we can actually get later on in the game give those carries and get some positive yardage out of that. In the beginning, when we were doing that, I think it really slowed up our offense and kept us from being able to be as productive as usual. We were still moving the ball pretty decently, but we looked ugly doing it.
They seem to have been honed in on the run play option from the gate, but if you had noticed, it took a while, but we transitioned out of that. Once Big Red got a read of the defense, the Chiefs made adjustments, and we were fine from there.
Yeah, and the other thing that I also want to say is that also helped to control Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram because they didn't have a sack in the entire game.
Which is great.
And, yeah, absolutely. For going up against this defensive line and the linebackers and to not give up a single sack is tremendous.
Yeah.
And we'll also have I don't want to necessarily say a dominating running game, but we had a very good run game against these guys.
I agree.
That really bodes well moving into the playoffs, where in the playoffs the run game is going to be imperative for success.
Yes, and I agree. And really, here's my thing too: is it seems like with our running game, it's home run or nothing, and somehow we've got to be able to bring some consistency to the table, especially in the playoffs. But I feel like Andy Reid's going to come up with a great game plan, here down the stretch, and stuff that we haven't seen yet. I mean, Andy Reid can be more creative than he's ever wanted to in his life, and I don't think that he's going to hold back anything during these playoffs.
Yeah, in the playoffs you can't. I mean,
right.
You lose, you're done. So you really, all the stops are out.
Yes.
Looking back at the last 10 weeks or so, there's a couple plays that we haven't seen a whole lot of that we saw a lot last year. Where are the jet sweeps?
Right. Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. And look, I feel like that's something that's going to come back here in the playoffs. I feel like he's set some plays aside that, he's probably got a whole handful of plays he can't wait to pull out from underneath his belt.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing to also keep in mind is that for the most part, our teams know what we're going to be doing and who we are as our identity going into the playoff games.
Yes.
And so we're really going to be we're not going to go in and have a completely different identity, but we're still going to be who we are. But what's going to really make or break the games is going to be the 2, maybe 3 trick plays or plays that the defenses have never seen before. Those are going to be the impact plays that could sway the game one way or the other.
And, these are times where you see a player, come out of the shadows and have a huge game because, you look at our impact players, look what these could easily be huge games for players like Demarcus Robinson or Darwin Thompson or, anybody who the other team isn't targeting as a weapon. It's going to be interesting. But let's backpedal here a little bit. Let's keep within this game here. Chris, I want to talk to you about something that has been lacking all season long and finally showed its pulse today, the last week of the season. Really not a bad time as long as we can carry this into the postseason. Got a little spark from the special teams. Tell me what happened today, Chris, with the special teams. What we got from McCall Hardman?
Well, we got what we've been getting from him all year, as far as speed and looking for the holes. And today, it really comes from Sherman. Right. Sherman had a tremendous block on the outside.
Yes.
That created a lane for Hardman, and he saw it open up with the 2 blockers out ahead of him, Darwin and I don't know the other guy off the top of my head.
Bell.
And he took it and he was gone. Darwin just had to get a good block on the kicker, and after that, cut back inside and he was off. There was nobody catching him.
It was great.
But I think the only person who could have caught him had he been on the field was Cheetah, but I don't think we're going to see that for a while.
Right. Hey, and it's, I'm happy to see him take care of his fumble issues with kick returns as well, but to, completely flip the script, from fumbling 2 games in a row to start out the second half, and then being mediocre. He did really have some signs of brilliance the last couple of weeks. I'll say this actually has been leading up to this. Would you agree? Because he's had some decent punt and kick returns in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, I'd say that yes, he has, but he's really had a really good year in the kick return game and punt return game, and he was rewarded with a Pro Bowl invite as the kick returner,
which is brilliant. And to start the season, you and I realized what a threat he was going to be. He worked his way up the depth chart a lot faster than you and I thought he would. And that's deserving. I don't know what the season stats are on him, but I'm sure he's sitting somewhere at, 600-700 yards and 8 touchdowns or something. And, in the beginning of the season, I think that's right where me and you pegged him to be. I'm not sure. You might have pegged him a little bit lower, but I think I had him on the higher end, and I had a little bit more confidence in him, stepping up the depth chart a little bit earlier.
Well, on the season, he's got 25 catches, 508 yards, 6 touchdowns for an average of 20.3 yards per catch.
That's amazing. What could you ask any more from a rookie?
Absolutely not.
And especially a Chiefs rookie wide receiver. When's the last time we got production like that out of a rookie receiver?
Tyreek Hill.
Besides him.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And
just one other thing I want to throw in on that kick return.
Mm-hmm.
Even more impressive that it was a rookie returned it 104 yards. It's the first time that the Chargers have given up a kick return since, I believe, the year was 2011.
Wow. And it's hard to take a kickoff back for a touchdown in this day and age. This is all around a great game. Our defense played great. Honey Badger got himself an interception. Really played another smart game. He might be one of those players that I have, Defensive Player of the Year. He's really, really showing some. I don't even have his leadership. That's the biggest thing. He's all over the field. This is the Honey Badger Kansas City wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. And he really has been this player since day one. And it's been great to see the impact that he, Frank Clark, although I know earlier on in the season a lot of people were harping on him for not showing up, but we understand why now. Terrell Suggs, even, in the 2 weeks that he's been here, the impact that he's had on the young guys.
Yes.
It's been tremendous to see where we are going as a defense and the impact that these veterans are having. It's great.
Hey, it was really nice to see Suggs get his first sack today as a Chief, and to see him come up and do the tomahawk chop. He's right at home. Hearing the interview afterwards, the energy from the crowd, and what it's like to play Arrowhead Stadium as a Chief instead of a Raven. He just, he feels right at home. You can tell he's happy. He's got a huge smile on his face, and he's ready for the playoffs. And he just fits right in our system. And like we had said before, this was a guy, that's got some miles underneath his legs. But Terrell Suggs can absolutely play football, and we said he would make an immediate impact, and he has. He has. So, do you see Suggs getting more playing time here in the playoffs?
Oh, absolutely.
I do too.
Because this is really where it's going to matter. Plus, he's also going to have a bye week to get more familiar with our system and to gel with the defensive tackles and understand what they're doing and how he can complement what they're trying to do, and vice versa. And the cool thing was that on his sack, he actually got it on a stunt, which he slid inside and came up the interior of the line, as opposed to just coming in from the outside.
which I that just shows you how athletic the man still is, and how much impact he can have on a defensive line. That's not hard to come up on a stunt and go through the interior of the defensive line. That stunt's usually dominant and created for, the guy who goes around the outside. Whichever player on the offensive line bites, that's typically the other defensive player, is the one going after the quarterback. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, on a negative note, on the defensive side of the ball, and I really hate to see this, and I hate to say it too, but Juan Thornhill was carted off the field with a knee injury today, and we'll know the full extent of it tomorrow, given an MRI, but I will say that it is pretty clear and evident, through what they've seen so far, that it's not looking promising, and more than likely Thornhill will be out for the playoffs. And so that's, I have to say, at the beginning of the season, I would have said that this is a huge deal. The way the Kansas City Chiefs have mended and molded into a team on the defensive side, I don't think this is going to be as huge of an impact on the Chiefs' defense as it sounds. Chris, what do you think?
Well, and we kind of saw what the immediate plan was in today's game in the second half. As soon as Thornhill went out,
right,
we saw Kendall Fuller and Armani Watts kind of rotate time back there at safety, which allowed for Matthew and Sorensen to still play up near the line, like a linebacker, nickelback type of safety.
Right.
And so they could keep doing what they're doing. I think that Armani Watts is probably going to end up getting that starting role there, if not Sorensen. But Armani will probably end up seeing a lot of time back there at safety, more so than Fuller. But I think that we have a very tremendously skilled secondary. Although at the beginning of the season, it would have been hard for me to say that all the way around. But we had a lot of depth at safety, and I mean, Armani Watts was a starter at a point last year,
right?
And he was doing pretty decent, but he wasn't the answer last year. And with the tutelage of Honey Badger this entire season, and you definitely have to think that he's going to show up in a way that we expected him to when we drafted him.
I feel like this is a scenario for Armani Watts where he can step into a system and be a system player that's, I hate to use system again, the system's already been built. If he can just fill that void through the playoffs and do a great job, he will be a great bargaining chip for Kansas City going into next season, to fill other voids within our team and possibly, keep us on pace with our budget and salary cap.
Yeah, well, and I believe we still have him on contract through, I believe, next year for sure.
Well, I mean, if another team comes calling.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing we also have to keep in mind is we could potentially be losing a lot of players in the off season.
Yes.
And if we have a chance to trade away a player for draft capital, in which we'll get cheaper players for longer periods of time, we might have to let go of some familiar and friendly names.
And and here's my thing about this whole scenario is I feel like the Chiefs are going to keep as much of the core as they can on defense. We seem to be doing all right on offense. It's just a scenario where we have to trust the system. Is it going to hurt to see some of these guys go? Yes. I guarantee you there's going to be at least one that's going to hurt Chiefs Kingdom's feelings. But trust the system, trust the system, trust the system. And also at the same time, enjoy the run that we're getting ready to go on Kansas City. Let's enjoy this with the players that we have, the locker room that we have. It sure feels like the 2015 Kansas City Royals. So let's see here. we have really touched base on pretty much this entire game, minus the Daniel Sorensen interception. Frank Clark got himself a sack. Chris Jones got himself a sack. Terrell Suggs got himself a sack. It really was a brilliant day all the way around. And look, I will have to say that the Chargers offense are no slouches. They really probably have the best offense they've had out there in LA, for the last 10 years, since the post LaDainian Tomlinson days. So I like what I saw today against the Chargers, Chris. I mean, overall, as a game, Chiefs win 31-21. At the end, the Chiefs had to did what they had to because it was close, and we spread it wide open, and they turned it into, a game that was basically out of reach. But, to be in a close game and then turn around and take care of business going down the stretch, that shows a lot of promise as far as clock management. Everybody talking about Andy Reid can't finish games, and I know it's just the Chargers, but for us to finish this game in a close game with everything riding on, this number 2 seed, how does that make you feel for Kansas City, not only in this game, but moving forward?
Extremely hopeful.
Right.
We're finding ways to win, and when Mahomes has a bad day, when the offense isn't necessarily on point, the defense steps up. Vice versa, when the defense is having a bad day, that's the mentality, the mindset, the character of champions.
Right.
When somebody is off their game, teammates step up, and that's what we've really seen the last 6 weeks. And yeah, we didn't have our number 1 rated defense in the game today. I mean, we gave up 21 points, but you look at the comparison of the defenses. We had 6 tackles for losses. The Chargers only had 1. We had 8 quarterback hits on Phillip Rivers. They only had 2.
That's the best protection I would say Mahomes has probably had all season long.
Absolutely. And having Wisniewski in there definitely helped with that.
Right.
Because we didn't have that pressure coming up the middle. He could step into his throws. We got 3 sacks on Phillip Rivers, 2 interceptions. And I want to touch on that Daniel Sorensen interception.
Yeah.
And how poetic is it that in both games, Daniel Sorensen seals the game with interceptions?
I love it. I love it. And that's the thing, is because, if we're going to keep it real and honest here moving forward in Chiefs Kingdom, this is Sorensen's last year with the Kansas City Chiefs. They will not be bringing Sorensen back. I mean, Chris, I can't see you putting up an argument with it, but what are your thoughts?
I think that we have too much talent behind him to keep him on the roster. I mean, going into next year, they're having Honey Badger, having Armani Watts, having Thornhill at safety,
right,
and potentially having, I believe we're still going to have him under contract, Jordan Lucas, to back up or be that 4th safety. That's going to be tremendous for us. And losing that experience that Daniel Sorensen brings is going to be hard to replace, but at the same time, it's a necessary step that we have to take to move forward and to get better all the way around.
I feel like if we would have lost Dirty Dan last season, if we wouldn't have had him, not for this season, but for last season, that would have hurt us tremendously. Now, not having him this season, we could have got by. Not having him next season, I'm perfectly fine with, because where we will lack in experience with a player like Daniel Sorensen, we picked up in leadership with Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. He brings in such an element to the Chiefs that the experience walking away isn't going to affect us because of the leadership that has been established within that secondary. And I think that anybody who comes in, it's not a broken unit anymore. This is a molded unit who, obviously everyone in the secondary trusts each other. We get one more player back there, that everybody can trust. That's really all that matters. We know we need to pick the right guy. Still there, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, this seems to be the last year for Dirty Dan. But I'm not too been out of shape about it. I mean, he's been a solid special teams guy, but it's time to move forward. So the secondary seems to be okay moving forward without Thornhill. So let's transition here. We won 31-21. The Dolphins helped us out and did what they did. So the AFC picture goes as such. Baltimore has a number 1 seed with a first round bye and home field advantage throughout. Obviously here in Kansas City, we have a first round bye and the 2nd seed with a home playoff game. New England fell to the 3rd seed, and Houston fell to the 4th. Buffalo picked up the 5th seed, and Tennessee picked up the 6th. So, New England will be playing Tennessee in the first round. Houston will be playing Buffalo in the first round, the wild card round. So, Chris, walk us through this a little bit because, we're on a hot streak. It wouldn't have hurt us any to play in this wild card round because, we're pretty hot right now. Well, we all know how Andy Reid is, after a bye week, as well as the Kansas City Chiefs. We're pretty well mended as a group right now. So how do you feel about these two matchups in the wild card round, the AFC side, and where do you think, how will this play out for the Chiefs sitting out a week and waiting for the wild card round?
I honestly don't feel that this could not have fallen any better for us.
Right.
Because Tennessee going against New England, and I don't think that New England's defense is going to be able to stop the beast that is Derrick Henry. That dude, he is an absolute monster back there that just cannot be stopped. And I think that he is going to be able to run all over them. And then when Tannehill's going to throw out some play action and then throw it over the top. I definitely think that that's the one, well, and I could be wrong here, but I think that's the one team that didn't play the Patriots in the regular season. I could be wrong there. But New England has seen every other division winner, and it'll be interesting to see what happens if they get knocked out right away. On the other side, looking at the Bills and Texans, that Bills defense could potentially shut down that Houston Texans offense. Depending on the health of Will Fuller, if he's on the field, that's going to stretch out the defense a little bit. But if he's off the field, I think the Bills definitely have the 1-2 punch at cornerback to potentially shut down that offense. And it's going to force the Texans to become a running team. The Bills have the front line that can potentially stop that run. And so then it becomes a matter of the Bills offense versus the Texans defense. The Texans defense, as we've seen, is suspect to big passes over the top. I mean, we saw what Drew Lock did against the Texans. He put up over a 300-yard game against them, and then came to Kansas City and basically threw up a donut for the most part.
Right.
And so this is a great scenario where both of the division leaders in the wild card could potentially get knocked out in the wild card round. And if that happens, what's going to happen going into the next round is we are guaranteed, regardless of who wins in the wild card, we are guaranteed to not have to face the Tennessee Titans. Because they're the lowest seed, they're going to have to face the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, they have, so it shows on here that they have the New England Patriots versus the Tennessee Titans, but that falls on the Kansas City side of the bracket.
So the way that the second round works is the number one seed will play the lowest remaining seed after the wild card round. And
I see what you're saying.
Because we're the second seed.
I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, there's no way for us to play the sixth seed.
Perfect.
And so Houston, Buffalo, New England, all of them could face us. There's no way that we face Tennessee.
Okay, so you broke up that last part. I do want to say, what I do like about this scenario is the possibilities of teams that the Chiefs can play, which would be New England, Houston, or Buffalo. All three of those teams lost in Week 16 heading into the playoffs. So I feel like that their back is up against the wall just a bit. I think that Tennessee could beat the Patriots. I think that really could be a scenario. Tennessee's a dangerous team, especially in the playoffs. That's that team you have to look out for. Buffalo, I'm not really too keen on. You lose this game, Week 17 game against the Jets. That doesn't hold very much value to me heading into the playoffs. And the Texans as well. The Texans just dropped the game today against the Titans. That doesn't hold very much value or stock with me heading into the playoffs either. I feel like all of these teams really are a speed bump for Baltimore and Kansas City.
Yeah, I definitely think that big picture, we're going to be facing Baltimore in the AFC Championship in Baltimore, and that doesn't scare me one bit.
It doesn't scare me either. Have you heard anything on Ingram?
No, I have not heard anything yet.
Okay, and I just wanted to ask because, Ingram, the Baltimore Ravens running back, suffered a calf injury, and the extent was not known yet until they had an MRI. And obviously there wasn't anything in the headlines. But at the same time, this could be something, Chris, you and I talked about this. Baltimore could slide by for a couple weeks without really saying much about Ingram. So Houston, Buffalo, New England, Tennessee, all of these games, they can go either way, but I can't see any of these teams getting past Baltimore, Kansas City. I'm really with you on this one. Ravens, Chiefs, AFC Championship. Chris, what's going on with the Seahawks game right now? Chris, you there?
Seattle's trying to come back. Seattle's on their own 40-yard line, and they're trying to come back. They're down by 5 with 1:45 left in the game.
Oh, wow. So there's a chance. So the NFC side hasn't even been locked in yet because we have the Seahawks against the 49ers, and there's some big implications. A lot of things could shift, so we're not really going to touch base on that side, and we've got to get through the AFC side first. But as it stands, at least give the contenders because the 6 are locked in on the NFC side: the 49ers, Packers, Saints, Vikings, Eagles, and Seahawks. So that's really, pick one of those 6 teams, and that's who the Chiefs will be facing in the Super Bowl. That's really what I got to say about it. So there's a lot going on. We have a bye week coming up. This could not come at a better time. We'll see what's happening with Thornhill. Hopefully we get lucky here and get some great news. It's just not looking good, so don't hold your breath, Kansas City. Chris, look, the Chiefs have had an incredible season. We're sitting at 12-4 with all the ups and downs that Kansas City has been through. I feel like that we're pretty fortunate to be having the number 2 seed with a bye week going into the playoffs. We've completed the regular season. Chris, with the injuries, with everything, what's your thoughts on the 2019 regular season, because it is officially in the books for Kansas City?
If I was going to put it all into one word, I'd say resilience.
Yeah.
Everybody stepped up when guys went down, and they didn't necessarily say that, oh, Mahomes is out, we're done, the season's over. Defense stepped up, they found themselves, and everybody turned on their jets, so to speak, and led them to where they're currently at, going into the playoffs in the second seed.
We're doing just fine. This really is a blessing to go in there set the 2 seed. I'm still in shock that Miami handled business. I mean, it was a 17% shot or something crazy like that Kansas City had of, squeaking in the 2 seed, and we got it done. Huge hats off to Andy Reid in that game plan. Chiefs Kingdom for showing up and being loud, like we always are. Hats off to Philip Rivers being a bum like he always has been. I hate to say it, but the Kansas City Chiefs throughout Philip Rivers' career absolutely owned him. And we don't know that we could have seen Philip Rivers' last snap as a Charger, as a quarterback in the NFL. Kansas City, hats off for completely owning that man's entire career. Chris, do you have anything to add to tonight's show?
Just one final note. Rutger ended up setting the franchise record again for most points scored in a single season.
I love it. Hey, that's our guy. That's our kicker. And the special teams quietly doing some things this season. Let's see if they can keep up this momentum with offense and defense going into the playoffs. Mahomes, step it up. I'm not saying you're playing bad, but let's get you going here in the playoffs. I feel like Andy Reid is going to cut you loose and let you do your thing here in the playoffs, and we're going to see some of that Showtime Mahomes that all of us saw last season. And not that he hasn't done great this season. He truly has. But I really think Andy Reid is going to cut this offense loose, and we're going to see some fireworks here in the postseason. So, with that being said, the 2019 regular season is officially over for the Kansas City Chiefs. They finished 12-4, first in the AFC West, second place seeding in the playoffs, like we have talked about all day today. We have a week to prepare, so Kansas City, enjoy this win. We will watch these, the wild card playoff weekend here coming up, and we'll see who the Kansas City Chiefs will face. So until then, enjoy, work hard, Kansas City. You got a long week ahead of you. And we'll head right into the playoffs. So, Chris, I really appreciate you being on the show tonight, our senior NFL analyst and co-host. I always love talking Chiefs with you.
Likewise, thank you for having me on.
Hey, not a problem. So, Kansas City, go bang that Tech 9, because Tech 9 was there and banged the drum today on the drum deck, and let's say that his good vibes helped the Kansas City Chiefs. I love it. I'm going to let you go with that. Have a great week, Kansas City.
Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Chiefs.